Rain. It seems so ordinary, so unremarkable, yet this life-giving phenomenon is the backbone of our existence. For millennia, rain has nourished our planet, shaping landscapes and sustaining ecosystems. It is the lifeblood of countless species, including our own. Rain provides the fresh water we drink, the fertile soil we cultivate, and the vibrant ecosystems we depend upon. Without rain, the Earth would be a vastly different place. Imagine a world where the heavens have closed, where rain ceases to fall for a century. This is not a scene from a dystopian novel, but a frightening possibility if we continue to disregard the environmental crisis at hand. A century without rain would be catastrophic, leading to widespread drought and pushing our planet to the brink. The consequences would be far-reaching, impacting every facet of life as we know it. From the lush rainforests to the arid deserts, every corner of our planet relies on a delicate balance of precipitation. Disrupting this balance, as a century-long drought inevitably would have devastating consequences for all living things. Understanding the implications of such a scenario is crucial, not to induce panic, but to underscore the urgency with which we must address the looming threat of climate change. The most immediate effect of a rainless century would be the rapid depletion of our freshwater sources. Rivers, lakes, and reservoirs would dwindle and eventually vanish. Groundwater reserves accumulated over millennia would be overexploited and depleted at an alarming rate. This scarcity of water would trigger a cascade of consequences, impacting human societies and natural ecosystems alike. Agriculture, the foundation of human civilization, would be among the first sectors to suffer. Crops would wither and die, leading to widespread crop failures and food shortages. Livestock would perish from thirst and lack of fodder. The once fertile lands would transform into arid wastelands, incapable of supporting life as we know it. The very fabric of our food production systems would unravel, leading to famine and social unrest. As water becomes scarce, competition for this vital resource would intensify. Nations may resort to desperate measures to secure water supplies, potentially leading to conflicts and wars. The social fabric of our civilization could unravel as desperation and scarcity override cooperation and diplomacy. History is replete with examples of societies crumbling under the pressure of resource scarcity. The impact of a century-long drought on ecosystems would be nothing short of catastrophic. Forests, once teeming with life, would succumb to the relentless drought. Trees, unable to quench their thirst, would wither and die, transforming lush landscapes into desolate graveyards. The Amazon rainforest, often referred to as the lungs of the planet, could become a barren wasteland, releasing massive amounts of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere and accelerating climate change. Without vegetation, soil erosion would accelerate at an unprecedented rate. Topsoil, vital for plant growth, would be carried away by wind and dust storms, leaving behind barren and infertile land. Desertification, the process by which fertile land transforms into desert, would encroach upon once arable lands, further exacerbating food shortages and displacement. Aquatic ecosystems would fare no better. Rivers and lakes would shrink and disappear, leaving behind barren scars on the landscape. Wetlands, crucial for biodiversity and water filtration, would dry up, impacting countless species that rely on these unique habitats. The delicate balance of these ecosystems would be irrevocably disrupted, leading to mass extinction events and a devastating loss of biodiversity. History tells us that scarcity often breeds conflict. As water resources dwindle in a rainless century, tensions between communities, regions, and nations would inevitably rise. Disputes over remaining water sources could escalate into full-blown conflicts, displacing populations and exacerbating the humanitarian crisis brought about by the drought. Imagine a world where access to water becomes a matter of life and death, where nations go to war over the flow of a river or the ownership of a shrinking lake. This scenario, while grim, is not beyond the realm of possibility. In a world ravaged by drought, water would become a currency more valuable than gold, and control over this precious resource could determine the fate of entire civilizations. The equitable distribution of water resources, already a challenge in many parts of the world, would become nearly impossible in a rainless century. Existing inequalities would be magnified, as those with the least resources would be the hardest hit by the drought. The potential for social unrest, mass migrations, and violent conflicts over water would be a constant threat, further destabilizing an already fragile world. Dust Bowl 2.0, when the wind blows dry. The Dust Bowl of the 1930s, a period of severe dust storms that ravaged the American prairies, offers a chilling glimpse into a future plagued by drought. With no rain to bind the soil, vast tracts of land were transformed into a dust bowl. Massive dust storms, some spanning hundreds of miles, choked the skies, turning day into night and blanketing everything in a thick layer of dust. In a rainless century, the scale and severity of dust storms would be amplified exponentially. Widespread desertification, coupled with the absence of vegetation, would create ideal conditions for these dust storms to form and wreak havoc across the globe. These storms would not only pose a significant threat to human health, but also cripple infrastructure, disrupt transportation, and further exacerbate the already dire food crisis. The dust storms of a rainless century would be more than just a nuisance. They would be a tangible manifestation of a planet pushed to its breaking point. The swirling dust clouds would serve as a constant reminder of the delicate balance we have disrupted and the urgent need for a course correction. The air we breathe, the food we eat, and the very ground we walk on would be under constant threat. Food crisis, empty plates, and broken systems. The most immediate and devastating consequence of a century-long drought would be the collapse of global food systems. Agriculture, reliant on consistent rainfall, would grind to a halt. Crops would fail, livestock would perish, and the intricate web of food production and distribution would unravel, leading to widespread famine and starvation. Empty supermarket shelves, once unimaginable, would become a common sight. Food prices would skyrocket, making this basic necessity a luxury few could afford. The competition for dwindling food supplies would likely lead to social unrest, riots, and widespread societal breakdown. The very fabric of human civilization, built on the foundation of food security, would be torn apart. The impact of this food crisis would be felt most acutely by the world's poorest and most vulnerable populations. Those who already struggle with food insecurity would face the brunt of the crisis, further exacerbating existing inequalities. The fight for survival in a world without rain would be a constant struggle, pushing humanity to the brink of despair. Economic collapse, a ripple effect of drought. The economic ramifications of a century-long drought would be catastrophic. The collapse of agriculture, coupled with the scarcity of water, would trigger a domino effect across all sectors of the global economy. Industries that rely on water-intensive processes, such as manufacturing and energy production, would grind to a halt. Global trade, reliant on functioning transportation networks and stable economies, would be severely disrupted. Supply chains would break down, leading to shortages of essential goods and widespread economic instability. The interconnected nature of the global economy means that the impact of a drought in one part of the world would be felt far and wide. The financial markets, already volatile, would likely experience a complete meltdown. Currencies could collapse, savings would be wiped out, and the global financial system, built on the assumption of continued growth and stability, would crumble. The world would be plunged into an economic depression unlike anything witnessed before. As drought tightens its grip on the planet, rendering vast regions uninhabitable, mass human migrations would become inevitable. Millions, if not billions, of people would be forced to flee their homes in search of water, food, and a chance at survival. This mass displacement of people would be unprecedented in human history, dwarfing all previous migrations in scale and scope. Imagine a world where entire cities are abandoned, transformed into ghost towns by the relentless drought. Imagine millions of people on the move, desperate for a safe haven, only to be met with closed borders and dwindling resources. The humanitarian crisis resulting from this mass migration would be staggering, pushing the limits of global cooperation and compassion. The search for water and arable land would likely lead to increased competition and conflict between migrating populations and established communities. The potential for violence, exploitation, and social unrest would be high, as desperation and the instinct for survival take hold. The very essence of humanity would be tested in this new world order where empathy and compassion would be challenged by the harsh realities of survival. Faced with the existential threat of a century-long drought, humanity would undoubtedly turn to technology for solutions. Desalination plants, capable of turning salt water into fresh water, might offer a lifeline to coastal communities. Water-efficient irrigation systems could help conserve precious water resources, while drought-resistant crops could provide a more resilient food supply. Advancements in cloud seeding technology might offer a glimmer of hope in inducing rainfall in arid regions. Large-scale water harvesting and storage projects could capture and conserve rainwater, providing a buffer against drought. Geoengineering solutions, while controversial, might be explored as a last-ditch effort to alter weather patterns and induce rainfall. However, it's crucial to remember that technology alone cannot solve the crisis of a rainless century. Technological solutions often come with high costs and unforeseen consequences. Moreover, access to these technologies would likely be unevenly distributed, exacerbating existing inequalities and potentially leading to further conflict and instability. The scenario of a rainless century, while hypothetical, serves as a stark reminder of the interconnectedness of our planet's systems and the urgent need for collective action to combat climate change. Addressing the root causes of climate change, such as deforestation and the burning of fossil fuels, is crucial to avert such a catastrophic scenario. Investing in renewable energy sources, promoting sustainable land management practices, and reducing our carbon footprint are essential steps in mitigating the effects of climate change. International cooperation, sharing of knowledge and resources, and a unified commitment to environmental stewardship are crucial for ensuring the long-term survival of our planet and future generations. The road to recovery from a century-long drought, if such a scenario were to occur, would be long and arduous. It would require a fundamental shift in our relationship with nature, a move away from exploitation and towards sustainable coexistence. It would demand a collective effort, transcending national borders and political ideologies, to rebuild a more resilient and equitable world. A century without rain may seem unimaginable, a dystopian fantasy, yet the reality is that our planet is facing an unprecedented environmental crisis. Climate change is real, and its impacts are already being felt around the world. While a rainless century is an extreme scenario, it serves as a stark reminder of what is at stake if we fail to act. The consequences of inaction are too dire to ignore. We must act now, collectively and decisively, to reduce our impact on the planet. We must transition to a more sustainable way of life, one that values conservation, renewable energy, and responsible consumption. The future of our planet and the well-being of generations to come depend on the choices we make today. It is our collective responsibility to protect the Earth, our only home, from the brink of catastrophe. Let the prospect of a rainless century serve as a wake-up call, a catalyst for change, and a reminder that we are all interconnected with the fate of our planet. The time for action is now before the rain stops falling for good.